Hello everyone. You're about to hear a short synopsis of the film Triumph. The film is based on true events. Young Mike Connolly has cerebral palsy. Despite this, the boy wrestles. Neither his coordination problems nor the ridicule of his peers stopped him. But one day, during a match, an opponent threw Michael to the mat, and he broke his collarbone. That was the end of his wrestling training. 10 years have passed since then. All these years, the young man has been undergoing rehabilitation and performing special exercises. This is the only way he can maintain his mobility and prevent complications from his cerebral palsy. From a young age, Michael was distinguished by his strong spirit and perseverance. He came to his high school's open house. The woman from the admissions office immediately assigned him to a special class. That's for regular high school students. You need to see Mrs. Freud. And I need a regular class, not a special needs class. Mike was taken to Mrs. Freud anyway. The boy was upset and immediately went to the principal. Mike was not only going to attend a regular class, he was also going to join the school wrestling team. I don't look for the easy way out of life. The principal assured the boy that he would be accepted into a regular class. He could confidently apply. I can still surprise you. See you in class. Mike came to the gym and helped another boy with the weights. I'm Mike. Are you drunk? No. What are you doing? Jeff apologized and was very surprised to learn that this boy with cerebral palsy was going to wrestle. The next day, Mike came to the school gym. Everyone immediately started talking about this limping freak. The stern Coach Warrant made it clear to the students that they would have a tough time. He decided to hold an endurance test to weed out the weaklings right away. The kids would have to run up and down the stairs and do push-ups until they were completely exhausted. Warrant suggested that Mike run in circles if the stairs were too hard, but he replied that he would do like everyone else. Mike arrived at literature class and immediately fell for the girl sitting behind him. Patty apparently also liked this cute, shuffling newcomer. Michael wanted to approach him but was embarrassed when he caught her friend's eye. His father devoted all his free time to Mike. The man helped his son train not only his body but also his mind. In the cafeteria, Mike ate lunch alone. Some bull started mocking him. After school, Bully decided to pick on Mike. The idiot started pushing the disabled boy. Jeff saw this, threw himself at the bully's feet and knocked him down on the grass. Mike hid behind the school and burst into tears. Jeff decided to cheer him up and dragged him to the gym. They would prepare for tryouts together. Jeff said he believed in Mike, but he would have to train hard more than the others. They both attended women's aerobics. Mike tried so hard to do the exercises that he almost lost his shorts. At home, he continued to stare at the athletes on TV. The pedals on the exercise bike sped up much faster. In the library, Mike was about to approach Petty again, but her friends interrupted him again. In the weight room, Coach Warren gave the boy some helpful advice. The man understood that Mike needed more attention than the other students. Warren, however, tried to talk him out of wrestling. What about bowling? Bowling is for senior citizens, and I want to wrestle. Mike asked for a chance. Well, then he'd have to prove he could do it. The coach hung 8 weight plates on the machine. Mike had to bench press this enormous weight 3 times. It seemed like the boy had no chance, but he pulled himself together and straightened his legs 3 times. Everyone was amazed, and the coach realized Mike was serious. If only he hadn't been distracted by the girls. Where are you going? No, let me go. We need to practice. Jeff started practicing his techniques with his new friend. It was important to him, too, to do well at the competition. That's the only way he could get into college. In the school hallway, Mike glanced at Petty and knew the time had come. Finally, he approached and talked to the girl. He had overcome that fear. Now he had to overcome Troy, the boor who continued to bully him. However, the bully pinned Mike without even breaking a sweat. You're just a weakling. Mike was upset. Troy got a spot on the team and he didn't. Orrin offered the boy a position as an assistant coach, but Mike wasn't interested in such a handout. At home, the young man began rehearsing to ask Petty out. But he couldn't even pronounce her name properly. Mike hated his body, his arm, which he couldn't straighten. He was so tired of being disabled. His father asked him not to be upset. Failures happen to everyone, but if he wants to achieve something, it's important not to give up and to pursue his goal. The next day, Mike approached the coach and accepted the offer to become his assistant. If you can't beat him, lead him. Welcome. One of the assistant's duties is to serve as a dummy for demonstrations. The coach works with Mike after school. The young man was embarrassed when students passing by began giggling at him. "You don't need to impress them. You don't need to impress anyone." Michael told Oren that during childbirth, a thorn had wrapped around his neck. Oxygen was deprived of its supply to his brain for too long, and this was the result. It wouldn't get any worse, and intensive training would only help. During an inter-school competition, one of the wrestlers disappeared somewhere, and Mike begged him to replace him lest their school be fined. The coach reluctantly agreed, and Mike quickly changed. He faced a rather strong wrestler who only laughed at such an opponent. He threw Mike to the mat again and again, and then easily pinned the disabled man on his back. Camlo didn't even shake his opponent's hand, but Michael wasn't upset. The main thing was that he was finally allowed to wrestle. However, his father's joy was overshadowed, as Mike had resumed wrestling in secret and Jeff had accidentally betrayed his friend. Then the athlete decided to help Mike in his love life and called Patty, but a man answered the phone and thought Michael was drunk. It turned out Jeff was joking and called Alcoholics Anonymous. Jeff believes his friend needs someone more like him than Patty, but Mike disagrees. During recess at school, he approached Patty again and invited her to lunch. Mike's father came to talk to Coach Warren. The men began arguing about whether Mike should take up wrestling. Doug simply doesn't want Mike to suffer. The coach admitted that at first he was afraid of having to babysit a disabled person, but Mike proved stronger than most, and taking wrestling out of his life would be like taking life itself. Doug listened and allowed his son to continue training. Today, Mike was able to do 2 pull-ups on the bar and climbed a rope. Jeff was distracted by a friend and fell from a great height, landing on his back. The injury turned out to be serious. Jeff admitted to Mike that he couldn't feel his legs at all. Physical therapy might get him back on his feet, but he'd be unable to wrestle. This meant Jeff wouldn't be able to go to college either. 3 months have passed since that day. Jeff's legs still don't work. Mike has extensive experience with this type of rehabilitation and helps his friend recover every day. One day, Mike plucked up the courage to ask Patty out on a proper date. They had a good time together, but Patty immediately clarified that they could only be friends. She didn't want to give Mike false hope. He understood and thanked Patty for that wonderful evening. He continued to compete. Doug now attends every performance of his son. However, Mike hasn't yet won a single victory. Troy the pig supported him with kind words. "Well done, Mike. You crippled Jeff when you needed him most and lost to a weakling." At home, his father suddenly declared that Mike had to quit wrestling. "You enjoy humiliation, right?" "You're the only one ashamed of me." Mike asked to finish at least this season. It was only 6 weeks. Doug agreed, but only on the condition that his studies wouldn't suffer. The team would soon face its toughest opponent. Every wrestler must give 100%. They needed a student to replace Jeff. And so it happened that the only one who also weighed 80 kilograms was Mike. Balding schooler Troy weighed 87. They were about to face Michael, and if Bohr won, he would have to drop his weight to 80. Troy was confident he could easily handle the disabled man again, but Mike had grown stronger and more experienced over the past few months, and he managed to pin the bully. This happened in front of his father. Thus, Mike won the right to compete in Jeff's place. Doug gave his son a gift for this occasion, a tricycle. His father apologized for hitting Mike and promised to always believe in him. Jeff was able to take a few steps without support. Mike helped him so much that the therapist offered him a part-time job at the center. In the meantime, he continued to actively train and prepare for the competition. The school administration presented Mike with a special award for his fortitude and teamwork. He's a true phenomenon, and everyone should look up to him. At graduation, Mike wanted to ask Petty to dance, but Jeff beat him to it. However, the boy didn't help and sent his friend away. He and Petty agreed to go to the movies again as friends. The final day of the competition arrived. Mike did 3 pull-ups for the first time. Jeff had already recovered and was supposed to compete on his own, but he wanted to give his friend this chance. Today, Mike would be the one to represent their school. The young man braced himself and stepped onto the mat. His opponent greeted him with a smirk. It seemed he was being underestimated again. The wrestler in blue began to laugh when Mike nearly fell and was immediately warned for unsportsmanlike conduct. After that, his opponent got to work and began scoring points. However, Mike fought back valiantly. After the throw, he countered. Mike pushed his opponent away. The opponent became enraged and immediately threw the guy to the mat. Mike landed hard and barely recovered. Afterward, he was forced to take the ground game. His opponent repeatedly tried to throw him on his back, but Mike resisted. He broke free of the hold, only to find himself in another one a second later. The wrestler in blue scored a lot of points in this match, but he still couldn't put Michael down. After the fight, the opponent recognized the guy's fortitude and raised his arm.